Hi, everyone, and welcome back to On the Live. I'm Adriana Monique Alvarez, and I'm so excited to continue this conversation on emotional resilience. And Kim, I am so thrilled to have you join us. Tell me where in the world you're joining us from.
I live in Northern California, and I'm enjoying stunning weather right now.
Awesome. I can always appreciate good weather.
Yes, I'm very fortunate.
So I love your title. I have to say, when I'm going through applications and I'm reading, I'm always looking for something, interesting and different. And when I saw yours, I thought, Emotion Culturist. Who is this woman? I've got to speak to her. So tell me a little bit about what that is, the work that you do. Tell us more in your own words.
An emotion culturist is someone who's trying to develop that in someone. So culture is something that's thought of just for organizations, right? And there's been a lot of research and articles around how you need to develop the emotion side of an organizational culture. And we'll get into this a little bit more about the driver that emotions are in our lives. But I said, hey, we are the CEOs of our lives, and we run our lives. So we need to develop our emotion culture. So I said, I'm going to be an emotion culturist for everybody. Develop it, right?
Yes, I love it. So, we've been talking about emotional resilience, and it's a time when maybe we're all being reminded of either the tools that we have to navigate it or what it looks like and feels like. And so I would love to hear what your personal definition of emotional resilience is.
Back in another lifetime, I used to own a running shoe store with my ex-husband. And the running shoes are built to give you resilience, right? That EVA bounces and you bounce back. When that EVA gets worn out, all of a sudden now you're getting running injuries. And that's how we are emotionally. If we can't bounce back from situations and we just stay down, that's when we get emotional or life injuries. Mm-hmm. So to me, that's emotional resilience, being able to bounce back, just like a good running shoe keeps you safe.
I like that. It is. It's the ability to spring back up.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean you won't feel it. Doesn't mean you don't go down. But
right,
knowing there's that pop back up.
Yes, exactly. So to me, that is the definition of emotional resilience. And I've needed it in my life more than once. One time in particular, if I can just jump into my story, yeah. I helped the person that I opened up that running shoe store with. I put him through school. We were married. And the next thing I know, I'm getting a divorce, and it wasn't on my side. And it was devastating. It was my whole world. We had two businesses together. We had all of our friends and people that we associated with were around the businesses. It was just so traumatic. And I literally laid on the floor of our home when I was packing up to leave for I don't even know how long. And I realized I didn't want to be like this. I didn't want this to happen to me again. Mm-hmm. I decided I needed to figure out what went wrong and how to make a change. And I had decided that there was a few things. One was how we spent our time. I created a Venn diagram in the shape of a heart, and it represented the balance of time in our relationship. And I realized that when we spent too much time together or not enough, it was very, very unhealthy. But when we had a nice balance, we seemed to be at our best. So that was one thing I recognized. And the other thing I recognized were my thoughts and where I was focused and how I was thinking. And that really is what was the catalyst that led to the Emotion Chef. It was how I can control my emotions with my thoughts. And that's what so few people really take into account.
Very true. And I loved, before we went live and I asked you, what inspired this work? And you said heartbreak.
Yeah.
And when you said that, I just thought, oh my goodness, I mean, what human cannot relate to that, right? Because every single one of us has had our heart broke or experienced heartbreak. And when you said this, like, I began to look at what happened, what's going on, because I don't want to experience, or I want to grow, I want to learn. So when you found this connection between the thoughts and the emotions and the behavior, what did you see was the most important thing?
Your emotions. I did a lot of reading on it, and thoughts, the quote I always use is thoughts driving emotions, and emotions drive thoughts, but it's our emotions that drive our decisions and behaviors. And that to me is mission critical, because if you're having random thoughts, and you can change them, then you can change your emotions because they drive your emotions. That's power right there. People are afraid of emotions. I was at an organization talking about this, and people were like, oh, I don't want to talk about it, it's too personal. But they don't mind talking about data points, right? Like, what company or what person doesn't want to know the stats of how many cases are going of COVID, how many, baseball percentages, you name it. They love data. That's all emotions are data. Your brain it doesn't feel, it has no senses, but what it does is all of the things that are going on around us sends data to our brain. And then our brain uses our past experiences to say, hey, when has this happened before, to produce an emotion. So if you realize that it's data, then it's less touchy-feely, right?
That's a huge thing, because you are absolutely right. People are terrified of emotions. They're terrified of their own, but I also have observed how uncomfortable it makes them when somebody else is dealing with emotions or expressing emotions that, that one is a little off limits. That one is not really allowed. Okay, so let's back up a bit.
Okay.
When someone is aware that what they're getting in their life isn't what they want, what's a good first step that they can take, keeping in mind that emotions are really driving their behavior, and the results, the reaction, the input, it's coming back to them, it's being reflected. What's a good first step?
I'm going to say writing. And there is a trick. I call it a brain dump. There's other things, because I think about it as getting all the garbage out of your head. When I said that these experiences that we have emotional responses, they're an internal reaction to what's going on outside of us. So it's not the outside that's giving us the emotional response, it's what's inside. Because we have, from the moment we're born, we have experiences. And so the brain uses these, they're called concepts, just like we lump them with an emotion word, just like layers of pasta with several different cheeses and some meats makes a lasagna. So we have concepts of ingredients that make up our experience, and that's what gives us our emotional response. 95% of that, we have an unconscious response to it. It's like we are non-consciously generating thoughts. So 5% is consciously generated. I'm having a hard time with that word this morning. But the point is that if you can get to that, like what's kind of driving you, it can help. What you do is you get 2 pieces of paper. You don't stop writing, get your favorite pen, and you just start writing about whatever it is that's bothering you, and the subject. And if you don't have anything to say, you just keep writing, and you keep writing. And then at a point where there's nothing to say, you just say, I don't have anything to say. I don't have anything to say. And then all of a sudden the gems start coming out, and it starts to uncover what's going on in your subconscious, the stuff that you don't really always have access to, and you get some insight. Now you have the information, and you can change that recipe. You can change those thoughts. You can change what it was internally that was getting to you. Super powerful. I've used it on more than one occasion, and it's it's a great way to get down to the heart of a subject for yourself. And once again, if it's too big, I always say, go get professional help. If it's too much for you to look at by yourself, make sure you get professional help.
I love that. It's so practical. And I have found it to be very helpful myself. Just being able to get it out, to express it, and to figure out what it leads to.
Yep.
So,
but just one more thought about, if you don't mind, is that there's a connection from the brain to the hand. And you're going to be firing up more parts of the brain versus if you were to use a typewriter and type it. It's not, or maybe even saying it out loud is good. The point is that you don't have to share this with anyone. You can make this very personal, and that's a safe way to get it out. And you can just rip it up when you're done.
Yes. And I think it allows you to not hold back, right? Because you're not concerned about who's going to read it, who's going to know. Yes. Now, you said something that I love, because this was, I don't know, maybe 5-6 years ago. I attended this little workshop. I literally walked in on it when I went to a store, and they were talking about the power of handwriting and that connection between the hand and the brain. And it's why to this day, I don't write anything that really matters to me on a computer. I handwrite it. Do you want to go a little bit into that and the power of the connection between the two?
I mean, I can, without going into like grave technical details, just the fact of that it's initiating more parts of the brain. You're using it more, and the body is so complicated, right? I mean, even just to say, oh, this is all that goes into your emotion recipes. It's a one shop. Like, your brain is the master, but there's so much going on. But it works together, and your hand, and with writing, it's connecting the nerves, the sensations. It's connecting that nerve pathways to the brain. That's, I guess, the best way to explain it. It's just going to takes a little bit more effort than it would typing.
So true.
I'm not I'm not able to speak to it in extreme technical.
That's okay. I get lost in the technical anyway. I found it so interesting that, there is such a deep connection there.
And I find the body amazing, and the brain. The more I learn, I'm in awe.
You had told me a little bit about how you bring the brain and the heart, and it's this combination. Yes. Which role they each play. So what would you say to someone who's always in their head and can't quite get to their heart, or for those who feel like, I'm always in my heart, but I don't feel like I'm making great decisions? Where is that balance? Where do you bring these together?
Actually, I hadn't even mentioned this to you. I just went over to a new platform for my website, and I'm setting up my program that I've done in person or online. It's going to be a self-paced course. I'm almost done with it, so it'll be there soon. But I did set up a free course that you can select. It's very short, a little mini course, and it talks about the role of our head brain, our heart brain, and our gut brain in making decisions, because each plays a role. And you have cognitive thinking part of your decisions come from the head. This is the logic. The heart is the emotions. It's the relationships. It's how you feel. It's the touchy-feely kind of personal relationship type part of you. Then you have your gut, which is your motivation. This is where you take action. This is like, you'll be able to go forward with this. It's your core self of who you are. You talk about having a gut reaction or a gutsy move. And so it's taking it and that question or whatever decision you're trying to make, and asking yourself, what does my head say? What does my heart say? What does my gut say? And when you incorporate all three, you're going to get a much more balanced decision. And in this little mini course, you actually get a questionnaire that was produced and validated in a study. And you can take the test and find out what is your dominant brain when it comes to decisions, your head, your heart, or your gut.
I love that. I love this.
You have to take it. It was really interesting.
Oh, I can only imagine, and I can understand as you're explaining it how each one is so important and is playing a role. So let me pop up your website, because I want people to know how they can connect with you at emotionshift.com. Now, you had mentioned you have the self-paced course, and then they have this mini free course that they can take. Who is ideal to work with you to go through this work? What do they look like? Where are they at in their life?
It's anyone who has trouble with their, or just wants to expand their emotional intelligence. The course it's kind of, you can tell I like science. Though not formally schooled in science, I've been reading for years, studies, books, and it takes you through how your brain works so that you understand its role in emotions. And then and more importantly, the importance of your body budget. And you have a body budget. You're think of it as I always say, a restaurant. Your body's a restaurant and it needs so much money to operate. And your brain is the chef owner. So when you understand like the components of why you need that proper energy in order to produce the correct emotions, and then your thoughts, because we just talked about how much of a driver they are, why we have automatic negative thoughts, how we can control them. We call them ants, and you don't want ants in your kitchen. So how do you get rid of ants? And some tools to do that, one of them being the brain dump. And then we go into the heart, because the heart is your natural fire extinguisher. We have the capability, our physiology is such as you can take yourself out of a stressful situation just by leveraging the power of your heart. And that's a tool you learn. And then how emotions are made. People go through this process and they learn how emotions are made. So when you get the technical side down, it destigmatizes emotions. And then you learn, like, it gives you thoughtfulness and mindfulness and the ability to see what is your recipe you're cooking up. I have people who've taken my course and they share it with their family and they're like, oh, you've got an ant. And I actually hand out ants, these little plastic ants. And so anybody who wants more control over their emotions, who wants to expand their emotional intelligence using something that's simple and innate, or someone who has children and wants a way to communicate this, the course is such that you don't have to have a wide knowledge to do it. It makes it very simple and accessible.
I love what you just said, if you have children, because almost every single person that I've interviewed here tells me I didn't learn anything about emotional intelligence in my childhood.
Yep.
I didn't know, it's just one of those things that's not addressed. It's sort of just, stop crying. Let's move on, right?
Yeah.
Get happy.
Yeah.
Don't do that at the table, right?
Yeah.
And the thing of it is parents are like that because that's what their parents did, and nobody knows how to deal and navigate with emotions. No one knows how to create conversations out of this. So, oh my goodness, I love that you pointed that out. What a great tool for parents to be able to expand their knowledge and then give it to their children at a young age, because I'm seeing that is incredibly rare.
It's from what I understand, I don't have small children, but from what I understand, they're doing a lot more of it in schools. But this gives parents a way to talk about it, because just because it's in schools doesn't mean the parents have the tools. And if you think about, there's so much out there right now to give upper management. They talk about emotional intelligence. Managers get this training, senior executives. And this is a way to do it across the board, which is really what my driver was. Everybody needs emotional intelligence, especially people who don't have access to it, poorer communities. I mean, that's where we need it. So if you have something that's easy for people to understand, because everybody gets the concept of a recipe. So, and if you understand like how it all works, then it should make it easier for you to stop and identify. And part of the key of this is learning more emotion words. Because emotional granularity and diversity, which means having more emotion words and having a diversity of them. There's nothing wrong with negative emotions. They get a bad rap. It's information, right?
Yes.
Failure is great information because then you can do something differently. Or being upset about something tells you, oh, this is what I don't want. So being able to see the issue or to be able to acknowledge the emotion helps you to move past it. Just like going into the bagel store, now you're not frustrated because you say, I want an Asiago cheese bagel. And if you can identify your emotions as easy as you can identify bagels, then you're doing pretty good.
Yes. I love this. I want to leave everyone with this quote that you had sent me early on. I absolutely love it. Thoughts drive emotions and emotions drive thoughts. But it's your emotions that drive your behaviors and decisions. And that is so incredibly powerful. Kim, thank you so much for joining me this morning and for the work that you do. I'm actually going to do this for myself and for my children, because I've learned in the last couple of years navigating big emotions through loss and seeing how I can create more space for my children in this. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate the invitation, and stay safe and stay healthy.
Absolutely. Until next time, big hugs from Mexico. I'll see you all soon. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you again.